Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dharam Singh, your friend, your mentor, your guide. And today I'm with a very special person, Louis. She is fantastic. She's just came out from, I should say, oven, freshly baked PfMP. So Lucy is one of that person. She's a globally recognized senior executive leader coming from with experience of program manager to portfolio director role. She'll work in the many companies in New York metropolitan area. You are based out of that, and you have a number of other certificates other than PgMP PfMP. You come with many other certificates such as SHRM, SCP, and RMP. Yep, RMP is great, and ProSci, PMP, and ACS, CSM. And you are a keynote speaker. You talked about on leadership, portfolio program management, and you expert in EPMO, setting up EPMO, PMO. So guess what? We cannot find better person than you. So you deserve to be here. So thank you for accepting my invite and come and talk about this very important topic. We're talking here culture, people, program, risk, and this is the leadership. We have be trying to redefine the leadership by going through this. She completed her PFMP just in 4 days, 6 days ago. Okay, great. Welcome and congratulations, Lucy. So, another thing is you passed the PGMP exam in October, not long ago. So back to back, PGMP, now PFMP. Wow. So Lucy, would you like to talk about who you are, other than what I already say, and maybe you like to celebrate or talk about your journey of PGMP PFMP?
Thank you, Dharam. Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. I'm very well, and I appreciate you having me in this webinar, and I'm excited to share my journey and my experience with the audience because I did find my experience and the certifications valuable, the certification
Yeah,
experience
yeah,
valuable, and I
exactly.
hope that others will find it as well. I just want to briefly share my certification journey because I found it valuable when I heard stories from other people when I was on the journey. It helped me to maybe get more focused or get clarity on certain things. So I was in a position when I didn't do any certification for a long time, and then I had all the accumulated experience, and I was able to do them in a relatively short amount of time. So if I can recommend something, if somebody is in that position, I would recommend starting with PMP, and then that's what I did: PMP, RMP, PGMP, and PfMP. If anybody has that opportunity to do it like that, I do recommend it because I realized it really built the momentum, and I was able to build on the knowledge from the previous exams. It was almost like a snowball. You start kind of small with the foundation of PMP, and you go on from there. Also, excuse me, anybody who is in the process of doing the applications, I just want to put it in perspective that the applications are very much different. I started with PMP and my application, the limit is around 500 words. And once you upgrade, quote unquote, to the PGMP, my application was around 1500 words, and then PFMP was around 2600 words. So it's a significant commitment even when it comes to the application. In order to be passed by PMP at the first try, you really have to be detailed. The applications need to be detailed and just very, you have to incorporate the framework from the standards. I did all of them on my own, but I can highly recommend DRM if somebody needs support with the application and the overall process. DRM helped me on my journey, and I can recommend him as a mentor for any of you who need additional advice or support. But I just want people to be aware that it does require commitment already at the application stage. These certifications are not for the weak, as I would put it. You really have to be dedicated and put the work in. I found the PGMP and PfMP much harder than PMP. It's just much more extensive. The knowledge goes deeper. You have to have the real life experience to be able to connect the concepts to what you did while you did it, or if you are still doing it. Like it would be very hard, never do it, but you really can't because you have to do the application. But just hypothetically, if you have never done it and you would just try to learn it from the book, that would be difficult. You need to connect the practical experience with the concepts. Let me see if I have any other helpful tips. if anybody here is considering whether they should do it or not, I highly recommend getting the certifications. It just I found lots of value in them. This is not just about getting a piece of paper. I really found a value in what I learned. I met other people during the journey. It's an opportunity to network. I just overall found it very valuable for me, not just for my career, but even like professional and personal development. Overall, I can highly recommend it. And
Yep.
also, I would like to add something that I do because I have so many varied certifications from different backgrounds. I would recommend it even for people who are not from the traditional sectors, or there are certain areas or domains where people tend to get this certification. Sometimes I see what I call non-traditional applicants, such as HR or somebody who does mostly agile. And recently I have received questions from these people if they should be getting PMP and how helpful it would be for them. And I highly encourage cross-functionality. Like try to go out of your box, whatever it is. If you do project management, try to cross over to agile. If you are in HR, usually I have not seen many HR practitioners who have PMPs. They usually focus on the HR application, but it's very beneficial to be cross-functional. And I'm going to speak to the role of cross-functionality later on as part of my journey here. But I just want to put it on your radar. If somebody is in this position to explore other certifications, I would highly recommend it and encourage you.
Great. 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 Thank you, Lucy. So it's great to know your commitment. You said you were not doing any certificates. Suddenly you got so many certificates. So that's great. So like, it's certification, as you know, as you said, it's not about just accumulating number of certificates. It's about what can you learn from them, the standard way of doing things. Can I do something better than what I'm doing now? And these certificates are based on some standards or practices, which are, when you apply them in your day-to-day life, your productivity improves, the way of you do your things become maybe more easier, better control. So highly recommend. After doing so many certificates, I was doing certificate for my own job and my doing myself better. So and then of course I'm doing some certificate for teaching as well, and including you now, Lucy. I have now 538 PgMPs and 164 PfMPs.
Very
So
impressive.
I cannot be more prouder than this. And the best thing in the since November 5th, 19th, since now, I got 12 PFMPs. So in less than 3 months, I got 12 PFMPs. So something is, I'm doing good. So I don't know. Of course, you work hard. I take all the credit, but there is right guidance and mentorship required for any certification. So I, you rightly said, sometimes is taking mentorship can be useful, can be, it's not only, many people have done it by themselves, but the journey and experience can be hugely different when you go through a mentor, right person. And it's of course the learning practical knowledge which you have seen in my programs.
Exactly. I would almost add that I recently I've noticed that the PFMP certification seems to be on the rise. I've noticed many more people celebrating it on LinkedIn. So it's good. Getting a momentum, I would say.
Yeah, I think this is now exponential. It's getting to that point where it's exponentially go up. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so few things, some housekeeping. Please check the chat if you've not seen so far. I have added few things, including the YouTube links, where I have previous webinars just like these. Maybe I think more than 300 webinars have been done so far. And the second link, the bottom one is YouTube for the podcast, where I have been talking with Thomas Valente and Reinhard and Justin and many other senior leaders. So number of, I think, more than 150 podcasts are also there. And I also added a couple of videos where I'm talking about what is PGMP and PFMP. I know these are a little bit older now. When you can watch them and you can ask me questions because things have changed. PMI keep changing the way it was in 2013 to 2020 and now 2025. They are improving these certificates, which I'm appreciating that. because when I started versus what it is now, PgMP has changed drastically. If 2,500 Australian dollar have to pay at the time, 1,500 US dollar. Comparatively, now as American people pay $800, which is fees is reduced, process has been improved, and it is much more enjoyable than it was. Anyway, I can keep talking about it, and I'd also like to tell you that I have released one app called vCare PM Exam Mentor. I have put that mention. Android app is released, iOS is coming, so it is covering many things, including PMP, RMP, PgMP, PfMP, and with lots of questions and many things like tips for the exam and domain and task and many things you will see all together in one place. Okay, yes, enough. Now I have lots of questions to ask Lucie. All right, Lucie, you ready? And
I
guys, you
am
ready?
ready.
And I
I
can
will
ask.
put my link into the chat for anybody who would like to connect with me. I'm always open to new professional connections, so please feel free
Yeah,
to find me on LinkedIn.
definitely. So thank you again, Lucie, and thank you guys, and please keep this more interaction, more conversation, more interactive, more question. I'll be more happy to ask questions. So, Lucie, with no further delay, let me ask my first question. What are the key leadership strategies and best practices to effectively integrate people, programs, and risk for long-term organizational success? And how can organizations measure the success of such integration?
I just want to say at the beginning, since I'm certified across different domains, including HR, culture, people, you will see that being reflected in my answers for anybody who may not be familiar with it because they are not really closely related to that at work. I just want to know that because I usually don't see this focus in many of your webinars because, as I said, many of the culture people, HR professionals are not focused yet. I want to add yet on PfMP and PgMP, even PMP certifications. So to go to your question, I know that many people think and would probably expect me to say that one of the upcoming trends or even ongoing trends that will disrupt the workplace in 2025 and beyond is artificial intelligence, AI. But I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think while that may disrupt certain processes from my perspective and what I have observed in the global trend, I think it's going to be focused on the employee via human-centered approach. And some organizations already know this. They are ahead of others than they are ahead of others and other organizations. So they kind of understood a while back that when the employees are happy, then the customers are happy and taken care of, not the other way around. The reason why I'm mentioning is this because what we have seen in the past years and months when it comes to the global layoffs and how people react to it, this is not the way how to do business really. The people will remember this for a long time. In order for organizations to be strong and successful, they need to have a strong culture. And the heart of organizational culture are the employees. The employees are the heart of every organization. The organization gets the work done through the employees. So they need to be treated as such. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the way nowadays. And this has been going on for a few years by now from what I have observed. And when we look at this from a risk management perspective, this can lead to increased risk. On the other hand, when this is done well, it significantly reduces risk exposure for the organization in many ways. It preserves the reputation of the organization, we avoid reputation damage, not just from the perspective of the employees, but customers. It reduces litigation exposure, negative press, and so on. So the goal is really to increase the organizational agility to a level that can sustain changes and challenges during business operations without a major impact on its business continuity. Because if this does not happen, we move from risk management to crisis management. And obviously there are times when we cannot avoid crisis management like we saw with COVID, like nobody could have really foreseen that. But there are certain times when we can foresee, when we do mass layoffs like that and similar things, we can foresee the consequences. So it's preferred not to go into crisis management when you can do a successful risk management at the outset, at the onset of things. You asked me about measurements. So
Yep.
measurement can be tangible or intangible. It will depend on the organization and what the organization considers to be its long-term strategic business objective. It can be as simple as the reduction in the number of filed lawsuits by current and former employees. You would be surprised, maybe not you, but I know when I've spoken to other people, sometimes that's not on their focus, depending where they are positioned in the organization. But for most organizations, this is something that they seriously take into consideration because nobody really wants this, I would say. Also, as I mentioned, it's important to assess your current processes to determine whether you are mostly reactive, which would be crisis management, or if you are proactive, which is what we consider successful risk management. When it comes to risk management and risks, there is something we call trigger events. Those are events when something is happening out of the ordinary and it's bringing to our attention that something else will happen if we don't successfully address it. So I would encourage everybody who is in the position to do something about it to ask yourselves if you are aware of these things and if you are addressing risk triggers on an ongoing basis, if you have even risk management, because some organizations may not have it so well developed. I also want to mention ADKAR from Change Management. For anybody who is familiar with PROSA and Change Management, ADKAR is a successful tool for evaluating personal change. It stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcements. Those are steps one has to go through for every change. So you have to start with asking yourself, are you even aware of what needs to be done, what needs to change? Then you have to actually have the desire to change it, because sometimes people know they have to change something, but they don't have the desire, they don't want to do it because it's unpleasant, right? In order to move to the next stage, the knowledge, you have to have the knowledge of how to do it. Like you cannot change something when you don't know how to change it. Once you pass the stage, you go into ability, when you actually have the ability to change. And the last stage, the fifth stage, is reinforcement, when you have to reinforce the change. And that goes for both personal and organizational change in order to maintain the momentum. So that would be my overview of the answer for that question. Graham, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, that's fine. It's great. Thank you. Thanks, Lucy. It's a lot of information, and one of the highlight you presented here, risk management. I can tell you, risk management, how you identify, how you foresee the risk, is one of the biggest difference between a mature project program manager versus ordinary project manager. Some project managers or program managers just they do that for the sake of audit purpose or just for ticking the boxes. But the difference comes when you can foresee what is about to happen and you take action in advance, or you have a mitigation plan in advance. So when the things about to happen, when you see the trigger, you can actually manage the project program more effectively, more efficiently. Yeah, great. Great, great, great. Okay, perfect. All right. So now, Lucy, what trends do you see shaping the future of leadership in portfolio and program management, given that you are now PgMP and PfMP? And how can organizations prepare to stay ahead of these changes? Are there emerging technology or methodology influencing these trends?
Thank you, Dharam. Well, from my perspective, one of the major trends that I have noticed and also experienced as a practitioner is the focus on portfolio best practices.
Mhm.
Because just because we do something, it doesn't mean it's the best practice, right? And recently, this is coming into focus because many organizations have realized that they may not be operating efficiently. So successful leaders, especially those at the executive level, they must really be aware of what this means and how to apply this in practice. Because the majority of organizations work within resource constraints, right? They have a limited number of staff and financial expenditure. I've never met anybody who would tell me we have money for anything and everything under the sun we ever want to do. There are constraints. So with that in mind, and that really highlights the need for all initiatives and projects to be aligned with the strategic objectives of the organization. So I encourage leaders to ask themselves if what we are doing today is really what's needed tomorrow. And it doesn't have to literally mean tomorrow, but from a long-term perspective of 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, there needs to be a vision, right? Is it really what's needed tomorrow? And is it really aligned with the mission of the organization? And are we doing this, or are we just doing this because somebody requested it and there is no strategic support, and maybe even the business case is weak? So they're just overall portfolio best practices. I can give a few examples of some of my favorite ones. One of my favorite trends or techniques, I would say, is prioritization. It's one of the best portfolio practices because it allows the organization to focus on what matters. And what we mean by that is looking at the entire inventory of work that the organization is working on and prioritizing it in a way that matches the strategic objectives of the organization. It really allows us to take a complete and holistic look at what is currently being worked on and why. Another of my favorite is gap analysis. I have used it many times myself, and this is a particularly useful technique that can be applied to any organizational area. The goal of this is to assess and identify gaps in the business functions and close it with effective portfolio management. Sometimes this requires significant institutional knowledge. You really have to understand the organization very well to be able to identify the gaps, but not necessarily. I'm sure there are consultants sometimes who may do this for organizations when they need to bring in expert, but it's hard to improve something when you don't know where the gaps are, right? So you have to start with assessing that. And the last trend I would like to mention is portfolio management software. Because to support all these efforts, especially for large organizations that may have lots of projects and initiatives going on, I have observed, especially on the global level, there is a growing popularity of portfolio management software.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to manage lots of projects and initiatives on spreadsheets. It may work for smaller enterprises or smaller organizations, but if you have thousands of employees, you probably have many initiatives and many projects. And these softwares allow you to have real-life data. You can generate reports. I have seen demos on quite a few of them, and some of them are very impressive, and they really allow you to manage the portfolio efficiently. Obviously, you have to take what works for you and for your needs, but these capabilities are here. Like, it is possible and very much attainable to obtain one of these softwares.
Look, thank you, Lucie. Once again, lots of information and to think about. You talked about the tools, the PPM tool portfolio, portfolio tools. There are a number of tools are coming up. Many of them coming with AI-based intelligence, which can change the game, the way we do the things. Giving you a dashboard where you can see things through, and you can drill down to the lowest level, and where the project manager can take the right action. You can guide them. So look for the right tool, which can, there are many tools, as you said, there are many tools coming, many companies bringing up, but which tool will be the most useful for you based on your pain point, based on what you're looking for. And nowadays, the tools we can have the fully integrated real-time system where you can, just like, I like this concept because if you're flying a plane and you see the dashboard in front of you, all the, engine pressure and the oxygen level, this level, so you can take action accordingly. If somebody come tell you, hey, 2 hours ago there was a problem in the engine, you tell me too late. We already have a problem. So having a real-time system can only improve your portfolio management, program management. So invest. There is a money involved, of course. Anything you do, invest your money in the right place, which can help you to do your job better. Okay. So if you need any guidance, of course, I know some of the tools. I can definitely help you. I'm also involved in one of the tool system, which is being not developed, actually already developed, and is used by many organizations as a real-time system. So happy to talk more about it. Anyway, so moving forward, so let's talk about how can leaders integrate human-centered leadership with risk management to create a balanced, harmonious, and vibrant organization culture.
Thank you, Dharam. Well, for this type of a question, I would recommend creating something that I like to call the resilient PMO or EPMO. And EPMOs are for larger organizations that need a broader oversight, a broader range of oversight and support. Now, the resiliency aspect is very closely tied to the organization culture, which you probably may have noticed is one of my favorite topics, and also the competencies of the people on the inside. The role of PMOs and EPMOs is another global trend that has been gaining a momentum from what I have noticed. Even PMI is very involved in this for any of you who are following that, and they recently released a new certification and updated guide. So it's just only gaining on importance and strengths when it comes to the momentum, I would say. And many organizations benefit from a centralized center of excellence that can provide advice, oversight, and support the workforce and the business functions. I would like to mention some characteristics that I consider to be essential for a PMO or EPMO to be considered resilient. And this is, of course, long term. In order for this to work long term, these characteristics need to be present. I'm going to just do a high level overview. I could do a whole another webinar on this specific topic, but we have time constraints here. So I'm just going to focus on a general overview. And these gain importance the higher you go in the organization. So the higher you go in the organization, the more you have to pay attention and the more these have to be really present. I'm going to list them in no particular order. They are all important at different times. The first characteristic that I consider to be really essential or foundational is ability to lead people. And I would ask you as leaders or aspiring leaders, are you a role model? Do you motivate and inspire, or do you control your teams? This is something that makes a huge difference in the team morale. And I have an article about this that I'm going to share a little bit later on. The second one is the ability to effectively resolve conflict. Now, this is extremely important, and I will speak to that later on as well. But the ability to effectively resolve conflict is essential. And I have spoken to many people at different levels, and I've noticed that people who are at the IC level, which we call the individual contributor level, they often avoid conflict. They see it as something negative and something that you should look the other way. But as you go higher in the organization, you realize that conflict is always present at any level. It's part of human nature. People don't get along every single day, right? Conflict will happen at some point. And the way you resolve it, it really speaks to your leadership capabilities.
Yeah.
The third characteristic is the ability to lead change. This is especially important at a time of change, crisis, things like that, because at those times people look naturally for leaders. They want somebody to look up to, somebody who will give them direction. So I would encourage you to ask yourselves if you are an anchor for your team at those times, or if you, I have to laugh, but do you sink the already unstable boat? So what I mean by this is, are you really strong and do you serve as an anchor for your team, or are you really not sure what to do and you cannot handle pressure and already kind of weaken the already weak situation? The fourth characteristic that I consider essential, and we already touched upon this, is the ability to effectively manage risks. We already spoke about this, and Dharam added many important things. But the one thing I would like to add is that an attempt at a total elimination of risk is not an effective risk strategy. This is just not possible. And in fact, it can actually lead to more risks and subsequent issues that were not present before. So different organizations have different risk tolerance. Some are more risk averse, which means they don't like risk. Sometimes they are more risk seeking, meaning they are open to more risk. Each organization has to decide this for themselves. But should there be an attempt to avoid all risks, that just will not work, and it will lead to more issues than there were before. And the last but not least characteristic that I consider to be essential is the ability to connect PMO value and processes to organizational strategy. I think we already also mentioned this, but it's essential that you do project initiatives that are actually connected to what needs to be done. And I know you may not be in the position to decide it. This usually comes from the strategic planning and the overall strategic alignment at the organizational level that goes down to the portfolio level and so on. But if you are at the project management level, one strategy I can give you, or one approach, is try to increase your awareness of how your programs and initiatives or projects fit into the overall business model. That is an effective strategy of advancing your professional career through value creation. Because that way you will understand what you are doing actually contributes to the organization, and you will be perceived as more quote unquote valuable. I mean, you are valuable, but your work will probably be more recognized.
Right, 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 right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucy. So yeah, so look, this is very important area, and many times leaders focus on delivery, 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 more work, more work. How can we increase more profit? You know, of course, all these are important because without that, you cannot survive. You need to have constant view on how can we the better, deliver more, get more money, more stakeholder, shareholder value, and all kind of things. But at the end of the day, we need to, we know that human, like the people who work for us, they are the engine for us. How can we create a harmonious environment? How can we, yes, we talk about, having conflict. We have conflict. It's not about running away with conflict. Can we solve them so we can have better outcome for everyone, for the organization? If you have to work on a high pressure environment, a lot of conflict going on, it will impact your delivery, and at the end of the day, your many things can get impacted. So, as a leader, you are the project manager, program manager, portfolio manager. You are a leader. A lot of people looking at you to support them, having right mindset and solve their problem or help them to solve the problem. So, yes, you need to create an environment where your team can function effectively, you can function effectively, your organization can function effectively. Okay, all right. So we got a question from my friend. He's happened to be my PgMP PfMP student. Pana, how are you going? Thank you for the question. Uh, how should leaders structure risk management programs to align with corporate culture and strategic objectives?
If that depends on the industry, because obviously different industries will focus on different risks. But in general, sometimes it's more compliance or quality assurance. What you have to decide what are the risks, right? Are you in an industry that's really focused on compliance, such as regulatory compliance in healthcare, legal compliance in government, and so on? So you have to define. You have to start with defining the risks. Once you study, if you are really interested in this, I would highly encourage you to pursue the RMP exam. You can even just read even the standard to understand some of the concepts, but you have to kind of start with understanding the risks. Look at the risks. There are different type of risks: environmental, legal, reputational, things like that that are applicable to what you are trying to mitigate. And risks are not only negative. When we say risk, we mean either negative, which are threats, such as litigation or negative press, or dissatisfied customers, or positive. We call those opportunities. That's something that you want to enhance or exploit, such as you want to do a merger and acquisition with another company to become stronger, or something like that. So the organization has to define for themselves what are the risks they are trying to mitigate for negative risks, and this is simplified, or enhanced for positive risks. And that kind of starts from there, and structure the program, structure the projects and initiatives within the program in order to support the overall risk management. But it always starts with assessment. Like, try to understand what you are actually trying to, where are you right now, and where are you trying to get with the program, and how it connects to the portfolio and your organization. If you have portfolio, some small organizations may not have a portfolio, and how it's connected to the organizational strategy. It starts there.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So we're talking risk management, and how it is aligned with corporate culture, strategic objectives. So of course, every organization has their own vision, mission, strategies, goals, and when we're running a project program, the project program has to be aligned with organizational strategy, goals, objectives. One of the important factor, from my point of view, is the risk profile, risk appetite. Every organization had different level of risk appetite. So you talked about risk taking, risk averse, risk seeking, whatever. Accordingly, organization will pick their project program. So if you are risk averse, you kind of avoiding taking any risk. If you're risk seeking, you want to go into new market, you want to make new initiatives, because that by taking you without taking risk, benefits are not there. And that's what they say, no pain, no gain. Sometimes that way. But
Sometimes you have to lose you have to loosen the reins a little bit to have more gains. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And if you think about, if you look at the companies like Microsoft and Apple and Google and all these big names we're talking now, somebody has taken risk at the time. They're probably working very highly paid job, and they say, okay, enough of job, I'm going to start my business. Initially they don't get all those successes, and they are all the competition, they can be kicked out, but they continued. They believed in that. So that's where the risk management, yes, don't get afraid of the risk. Sometimes we talk risk means opportunity as well. Can you convert that risk, the threat, into opportunity? So that's the thing. When you are more ready, more aware, you have mitigation plans, you can convert the threat into opportunity as well. Anyway, so thanks, Pana, for your question. If you have more questions, please keep putting the questions. All right. So my next question, Lucy, how can leaders leverage people skills like empathy, communication, conflict resolution to build high performing team and drive organizational success? Can you share tools or technologies or techniques that have worked for you?
Thank you, Dharam. This is one of my favorite questions. I want to open it with sharing an article. I just realized I cannot paste the article into the chat, but I have the article in a written form as a PDF. So if anybody is interested in having the actual physical copy, please contact me on LinkedIn, and I can send it to you via email or message or something like that. The article I would like to talk about and kind of ease us into the question is called Global Leadership Report, What Followers Want. This was done by World Government Summit 2025 and Gallup. Now, World Government Summit, it's a thought leadership platform and networking hub for experts, policymakers, and pioneers in human development. And they worked with Gallup to conduct this huge study. They conducted a survey in 52 countries. They asked over 30,000 adults, and this is a huge sample. It actually represented about 76% of the world's population, right? 76% of adults. And what they focused on is the voice of the people. So they didn't focus on the leader really that much, but on the voice of the people. And when we say followers, we mean anybody who is, I don't want to use the word subordinate, that kind of stuff, kind of disciplinary like, but somebody who is in a position of a follower. And this was done originally in 2025, sorry, in 2005, a long time ago, sorry, 20 years ago, and 2008, and they expanded it again in 2024 because this topic seems more applicable than ever before. And what they actually found, that for leaders to be effective, that they need to know what is expected of them. What is it that the followers actually want? And followers can be your team members, at whichever level you are, right? And what they found is that there are four main needs of followers, four main foundational needs. The first one is hope. That counted for 56%. 56% of people said they need hope from their leader. It was followed by trust at 33%, compassion at 7%, and stability at 4%. And this is consistent worldwide. And when you look at hope and trust, together those first two combine for 80%. So they just speaks of how important hope and trust is in leaders. And when you read the article, it gives you a breakdown into how they define trust, hope, and all that. So from the article, we can really see how these characteristics of a leader and their ability to carry this out is important. And when we say hope, we don't mean false hope, like do not lead people on, obviously, do not promise something you cannot deliver. But especially at the time of crisis or uncertainty, it is important that the leader is an anchor, that they do not sink the boat. As I said, for anybody who wants to read the article, I'm more than happy to send it to them via LinkedIn. And I just want to go deeper into the question, kind of the article help us to frame it. But there is a difference between good times and times of conflict and change, which happens
Yep.
anywhere, right? Because when things go well and everything is kind of peachy, people usually do not pay attention to communication as much, but wait for conflict, wait when somebody doesn't agree, and all of a sudden it changes things. And this is a real test for leadership. Like I would encourage you to ask yourself, how do you present yourself at those times? and do you respond versus react? And I would like to share a secret tip. It may not be so secret for some of you, but it is something that may not be so obvious, but it really is important. If you learn, or when you learn, how to effectively and fairly address and resolve conflict, you will really be a respected and effective leader. It is that simple. Because the real test of leadership is what the leader does when things don't go well and there is an issue and problem that needs to be addressed and resolved. When everything goes well, it's easy, right? The
Yeah,
real test is when how
right.
do we say when the rock, when is it like you hit the rock, like the, I cannot think of the English expression now. If somebody knows it, please drop it in the chat. But that's the real test. And it goes back to the article. It's very nicely tied into the article for anybody who wants to read it. And the other thing I want to add is the role of empathy. And empathy is not just empathy. The article and in general other research papers broaden it into emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence is like the overarching ability, concept, whichever way you want to call it, because it goes into self-awareness, self-management, humility, motivation, interpersonal skills. And in order for you to successfully navigate team at time of change, when there is an issue, you really have to be very well self-regulated as a manager. Because if you are not, like it's hard to, you have to model the behavior, right? It's hard to motivate and inspire people when you don't possess those skills. You cannot just tell people go there and do this. That's not how leadership works.
Mm.
You have to actually model the behavior and be a strong role model. Let me see if I would like to add something. I'm very passionate about this question. I just want to add a short overview of other kind of areas that are closely tied into this, and it's best hiring and promotional practices. For your teams to be successful, if you are in a role of a hiring manager, you have some input into it or even control, get the right people in key places and you will really solve yourself a lot of issues. The other one is organizational development. Assess the skill gaps in your workforce or at the team level, whichever level you work with, and then try to close the gaps with professional development. Another one, cross-functionality. I already mentioned it at the beginning, but the way global trends are going, people need to be cross-functional. They cannot just, all I do is agile, and I don't like project management because it's waterfall and it's bad. And no, like try to, if you can, and you are open to it, try to have an open mind, try to work on different projects that may not be exactly what you have done before. It will help you going forward because the way globally this is going, people need to know more domains, more skills. Like do not pigeonhole yourself into something because that's not how it will not serve you going forward. And the last thing I would mention, if you are in a manager role, spend time on coaching and mentoring your team members. It will help you to develop your team and it will help you to grow as a leader as well. Because it's not a one-way street. You always learn from the person who is being coached or mentored as well, and they will learn from you if it's an effective relationship. And it's a very effective technique that doesn't cost a lot of money if it's done internally, obviously, within the team, between the supervisors, managers, and the team members. So I highly recommend it for anybody who has been given it a try.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. This is a good question, especially building a good leadership and the leadership, to get the work done with the right people or right mindset and serving or looking after your people. So the right people stay with you for a long time. So in the time of conflict, and you correctly mentioned, any leader can thrive when there's no crisis. They feel they're achieving everything. But when the crisis happen, when the conflict's happening, and how you handle that, that can bring a new leadership style or leader in you. So be open for these challenges, and you may see the challenges, but they can be a place where you can help. You can build a new and better environment for your team members. So lot to think about empathy, how how you want to see your people, think about what they're going through when they're doing this program, you know and think from their point of view as well. Of course, we have to think from the strategic alignment and objectives and money and this and that. But at the end of the day, they are your machine. They are the one people. These people are doing the work for you. So build a high performing team, energetic team, motivated team. So really look after them. Wow. Okay. All right. Let me.
We got deep there. These are deep topics. This is not just
I
like we are not stretching the level here. We're going deep.
I know we have to, and these are the things. Of course, many things you can learn from the books, but many things you gain from your experience or other people's experience. So what Lucy has gone through, what I have gone through, many people have gone through. So learn from them. And as I said, I have more than 300. I stopped counting. It's more than 300 webinars I've done, like people like you, Shavin last time, and it was so many people gone through this program, and I'm going to have more people. Actually, next month when I'm in Australia, midnight, actually 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll be talking to Marcelo from Florida and another great person. So a lot to learn from all these people, and we'll continue to talk. I still have a lot more questions, Lucy. Let's continue to talk.
Well, not that many. Don't make it sound like it's we only have a few.
Oh, not many questions. Yes, yes, yes. We have to wait.
Unless
Okay,
people want
look.
to I encourage the audience, please take advantage of me being present here and ask questions you may need insight into. I'm more than happy to answer them if I can, and I hope I can.
Yeah,
Between me and Darren, we should be able to figure out anything under the sun.
anything under the sun. Yes, good. Good thing. Okay, not only actually within the solar system or maybe entire universe. Anyway, so let's come back to my question. Next question is, with your global experience, how do cultural differences impact risk management and portfolio program execution? And what strategies or metrics do you use to assess and address these challenges?
All right, thank you. So this is a question where I get to combine my risk management expertise and my cultural expertise. And it may not be the typical combination, but I enjoy this very much because many organizations nowadays are global and they are very diverse. So it's very important to keep this in mind. And when we look at this from the risk management perspective, we can kind of categorize cultural differences into two main groups. The first one is opportunities. I've already mentioned that opportunities are positive risks. Those are risks that you want to exploit, which means you really want to go full in and achieve a 100% success, if not possible, at least want to enhance it. So you have a higher chance of achieving them. Because cultural differences bring a lot of diversity into the workplace, right? You have different people from different backgrounds. It's beneficial to the development of the organization and its evolution because different people from different cultures have different perspectives. They don't think the same way you do. And it just enriches the organization and its cultural thought power, I would say. And it overall helps to improve the processes, especially if your organization or your company provides services to a diverse group of customers. The second major group is threats. We already mentioned that these are negative risks that we should aim to mitigate. We probably cannot completely eliminate or avoid them. That's probably not possible in many cases, but at least try to reduce them. And when it comes to culture, you can do this because when it comes to threats, cultural differences can lead to conflict if they are not properly understood, addressed, and resolved. Because, as I said before, different people think differently, and when one person from one culture finds normal, somebody else may have an issue with it. And if it's not understood and a common solution, mutually acceptable solution is not found, it can ultimately actually expose the business to litigation because that's when people tend to sometimes file lawsuits. So with that in mind, as a leader, I would encourage you to explore first if there are cultural differences within your teams and try to understand the different viewpoints and arrive at a mutual acceptable solution. Like it's not always possible, right? But at least depending on the situation, try. There is always a way how to resolve it peacefully or at least in a fair manner, I would say. I remember I'm very active on LinkedIn and I like reading other people's stories. And I remember reading on LinkedIn an experience of somebody I think the person was originally from the United States. I'm not exactly sure, but the person moved to Norway, right, in Europe. And when they worked in corporate, and when they started working in the company, they noticed that people, when they have meetings and when they speak in the meetings, when somebody is speaking in a meeting, they take long breaks up to 30 seconds when they speaking, and the person found it nerve-wracking that I think it was she should be quiet for such a long time. It was just such a big cultural difference for her. The person really struggled with it for a long time until they became accustomed to it, and nowadays it's okay. But to her it was shocking, and she just, like, in America, I don't think we do this. Like, people don't take long breaks like that, and that's something, if you don't understand the culture, you you don't know why it's happening, right? So it's important to investigate first before arriving at any assumptions.
Yeah, very, very valid point, especially when you're working in different culture. And I'm privileged to work with many different cultures, while in India, while in Australia, now in US, and my students are different culture. So don't assume things first of all. Know a little bit about more, like especially unless you're going to work in a country, like you said, you went to go to the Norway, or you go to Germany, or you go to the Saudi Arabia or Japan, and you know that when you go into work in Japanese company, there's a different way of thinking, talking, doing things. And when you go to the Saudi Arabia or India or other places, there people have, this is many years, a generation of building up. You cannot go and change them. You look, when you go to other places, you have to learn the way they are doing. You cannot expect they will change for you. You need to adopt based on what is happening. Yeah, and when you get people from, like, in nowadays multicultural environment, we have any team, you find people from all kind of every country of every religion. So actually, that can be used as a uh, opportunity for yourself. Now everybody come with different own thinking or own thought process. Instead of seeing them differently, okay, what strengths this person has? Do some SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity. You try to put a team such way they're complementing each other instead of competing with each other, complementing each other. They have this person, and this person can be a good technical person, this person a good speaker. Let's bring them together. So find the strength and weaknesses and try to build a team around those strengths and weaknesses. That will actually help you a lot.
Thank you,
Okay.
Darren. Before we go to the next question, do you think we should take the question we got before the webinar, just in case the person has to leave at the whole hour and they cannot stay with us longer, because we're probably going to go a little bit over.
No, that's fine. We'll continue as we are going. So I've shared the PDF code on the chat. Please have a look and record it. Take a screenshot or maybe write it on your paper and claim it. And of course, keep coming. We still have few. I have a couple more questions to go through. So if please stay and keep listening. It's a valuable discussion. You don't get this opportunity, this kind of discussion every day. So please keep listening. So my next question, what are the most effective ways to align portfolio and program objectives with organizational strategic goals while managing the risk associated with people and processes? Are there specific KPIs or benchmarks you use to ensure alignment?
Thank you, Darren. So I would say that this is specific to an organization or industry based on the value the business is trying to generate. It could be via a product, service, improvement to the communities, and etc. There are different ways how to achieve this. But as we already discussed, and we can emphasize this again, this is never, it's always good to emphasize this. It's never enough, I would say. It is essential that the portfolio objectives are aligned to the organizational mission, core values, and the overall strategic goals. So whichever programs and projects you have going on, as part of that, they have to support the portfolio's objectives. And the planning starts there. Somebody asked me about that risk management program. That's where you start the planning. You cannot plan when you don't know where you are and where you are trying to go and what you are trying to achieve, right? So first start with assessing your current situation. This kind of reminds me of a quote. I like quotes, as you may have already noticed. Sometimes it provides a good analogy. It reminds me of a quote, we got nowhere really fast. sometimes that does happen, unfortunately, when people get nowhere really fast and then they have to do rework. Especially we see this in agile software development and stuff on a smaller scale level. And another one of my favorite quotes is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So sometimes it's good to think the process through and the planning stage. We especially see this in change management. In change management, with transformational large-scale organizational initiatives, we spend lots of time in the planning stage. And people tend to sometimes skip the planning, but it's not how you achieve success. You really have to do significant and solid planning, and then you move from there. When I took the ProSci certification, and just even in my experience, sometimes people, it was emphasized within the certification, and even in my experience, sometimes people try to skip the planning and just rush. They want to see the results, so they rush to the next phase. But you really have to do a good, solid, foundational-based planning. And let me see what else do I have here. KPIs will vary based on the industry. As I think already mentioned, highly regulated industries such as governmental agencies, finances, healthcare, they may be more focused on legal and regulatory compliance, assurance, quality control. Obviously, when you manufacture a medical device, you cannot have faulty bypasses and things like that. So different industries will have different focuses. Also, there is something that we call the cost of conformity and the cost of non-conformity. This is already explored at the PMP level. But again, it's the difference between proactive and reactive. Do you really spend time, effort, and even money on cost of conformity? Do you make sure that the standards are met at the beginning? Or are you reactive and then you find mistakes and non-compliance and you have to spend money on the back end to kind of fix it? And this is often more expensive. It leads to, again, potential litigation exposure, unhappy customers, defective products, and things like that. So that would be my take on that, Dharam.
Yeah. Now you talked about cost of conformance and cost of non-conformance. So sometimes it's better to spend money up front and have it like better quality than you release in the market and there's warranty fixes, recalls, and litigation, and many refunds are happening, and brand impacts. There can be many of these. So yeah, that's the opportunity for you to improve your quality standard, quality processes, so you can have a better product, happy customers, and you will be enjoying, you know, more customer base. All right, good job. And just to talk about product, I mean, my app, which I was about to release in August 2023, has to be pulled back because my wife jumped in and started talking. Hey, there's so many problems. And since then, because we invested so much money and time into that quality process, more than 1,000 defects identified and fixed. Now the app which is released, I'm very proud of that. It's very nicely presented. Of course, a lot of content goes into that, but the background, the structure has to be correct. So that's where you spend a lot of time and money on to do the quality product. Okay, so my next question, this is audience question which was given to us previously during the session. Andres, thank you. We'll read out. Is our responsibility as PMs to manage the granular outcome, especially staff, deliverables, etc. When you are a program and portfolio manager, you have to focus on the small thing. How deep into the weeds, okay, is acceptable, especially when the assumption is lack of ownership from teammates.
It's a good question to ask, and I'm sure this is a question that is pondered by many people. And I would say, from a perspective of an executive leader, and I've seen lots of people struggle with this at the project manager level, program management level, is the difference between empowering your teams versus micromanaging them. What I found interesting about this question is that there is some assumption. So my question to the person who asked this question would be, who made this assumption? Because when you empower your teams, people usually feel strong ownership of their work. You give them maybe the direction and the training they need to do the work, but then you let them do it in a way, you let them select the way how they arrive at the result, how we empower our teams. And when you allow for that, people will feel the ownership of the work. I would definitely recommend not to get involved in the granular level. If you are at the program management level, like program managers who oversee project managers should only be involved to the level that's required kind of for them to have an active oversight of the project, but it's up to the project managers to actually execute the project. Obviously, if they need direction, they need your support, you should have a collaborative relationship and they feel comfortable enough to approach you and ask questions. But you shouldn't be in a position when you have to get involved granularly on an everyday basis. That usually means people don't know what to do, they need more training, they don't have the capabilities, there is some sort of an issue. And of course, this applies the higher you go. If you are at the executive level, you're not going to be involved at the granular level because they just that's disempowering to people when somebody wants to micromanage them. Please keep this in mind.
Yeah, definitely. You have to find the right level. You know, if you keep micromanaging, if some problem have, don't worry, I will help you. I will do it for you. No, you're not letting them to learn. And when they're not learning, they will do the same thing and they look at you all the time. Hey, can you come and help me now? No, you should, hang on, you never let me learn. Now give them opportunity to learn, to grow, give them, allow them to take some risk as well. You know, if you don't allow them to take risk, they will not learn at all. So an important thing, yes, we take risks, we fall down and something did not work out as well. Encourage them to take another step, one more step. They learn. And lesson learned are captured so that we can keep learning from them. It's not the whatever we done, we're going to improve from there. So yeah, don't go too low and at the right level. Let your team grow. Let yourself take yourself a little bit up higher than you know. And so if they are doing good job, you're doing good job. If they are trained and they are empowered, you're going to do good job. All right. So Lucie, thank you very much for inputting so many thoughts, experience, and nobody just it was so awesome. It was great to have you here. Um, I think I made a good decision to invite you here, and you did really well. You did really well. Appreciate your time and contribution. And you guys, please reach out to Lucie for anything she can help you with, or just having a good connection. Always good. LinkedIn is the place where you can connect with the right people and learn from them. And who knows, this one connection can be is a game changer for you. Obviously, you have to. Most of you already connected. You have some of you already taken my mentoring program. I can see some of you already done PgMP PfMP. Number of you, Pana, Lutfi, Erica. I can see that some of these names. You remind me of our days when you're talking, going through the mentoring program. And of course, Lucie, I cannot forget you. You did two programs with me, PgMP PfMP. Thank you for trusting me on the journey. It is it's a privilege to mentor somebody who already highly experienced person and giving some hands to achieve those certificate, helping me make me proud as well. So thank you, Lucie, for trusting me on the journey. Thank you, Lucie, for coming and spending time with us and giving us so many points to think about.
Thank you, Dharam. I appreciate you having me here. It was an enriching experience. I enjoyed our conversation and the ability to share my expertise and experience with the audience. If anybody has any additional questions and you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to contact me. And I thank everybody who attended and thank you, Dharam. I always recommend you to anybody who approaches me and they are looking for additional guidance and support for certifications because you don't just do PgMP and PfMP, you can help with RMP, the schedule, professional certification, and other things. So you are a very well respected global mentor and it will continue like that. Thank you for all your help. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And people who want to take my program, I know you can reach out to me. I have shared a coupon code. Hopefully you can save some money out of this. And I know you don't just for the same money, you come to me for learning. But in case I can help you with monetary somewhere, so use that coupon code and let me know that you attended this program and how good Lucie was. And I love to know how good I was looking at the time in my previous days. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Thank you again. And people who are watching this video as a recording, so reach out to me for the PDU code. Okay, so you can find my email address. And okay, great. So I think we are done. And thank you guys for keep joining. Next week, next time, I think 15th of March, I'm talking with Marcelo. He was my PFMP student. He's a great guy from Florida. So please join. And now, of course, that time will be 4 o'clock in the morning for me from Sydney. But that's fine. I will make sure I'm fully awake. So thank you, Lucy. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Take care.